I'm very excited because we have a very interesting guest today who started out as a software engineer graduating from MIT, and his whole life changed. We're going to find out about it. And he became a healer. And he wrote this wonderful book called The Experience, Part Two, The Formula for Miracles, where science reveals the secrets of spirit. And we are speaking with Brent Michael Phillips. And he's an author and a presenter. And I think you're going to find he's got a lot to share with us that is intriguing. So thank you for joining us today, Brent.
I'm excited to be here. This is great.
Yeah. So I read about your past. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about your past and then how you evolved as you have?
Well, it's kind of funny that I never thought I'd be doing anything like what I'm doing. I always thought I'd be a programmer, a software engineer. To end up being a professional healer, a spiritual teacher, an energy worker wasn't even on my radar because I grew up as a complete nerd. I loved Dungeons and Dragons, video games, Star Trek, all that stuff, right? And when I got to college at MIT, I discovered the internet, which sounds funny today, but back in the 80s, no one had heard of the internet, right? And long story short, I fell in love with the internet. And I thought, wow, this worldwide computer network can really change everything. And of course it has. Mm-hmm. And so I went on, I got my bachelor's degree, continued at MIT for my graduate school, got my master's, and I was working towards my PhD when the internet boom hit. And I thought, well, heck, this is the gold rush of my lifetime. I'm one of the world's leading internet experts right at the start of the boom, right?
Yeah, right time, right place, you thought.
I was exactly in the right time at the right place with the right thing. And so I left MIT. I moved to California, recruited my lifelong best friend, and we started a website company. And at first, really, the sky was the limit. We did great our first year. The first project we landed was actually to build the website for the launch of the Sony PlayStation in the summer of 1995. So yeah, that was our first project. So a year later, I had 15 people working for me. We had done websites for Nissan Motors, for Disneyland, for several divisions of Sony, including the PlayStation. So we had these Fortune 500 clients, and really, things were going great. But there was a dirty little secret, which was this company was built on my blood, sweat, and tears. That I was in the back room working 80, 90, 100 hours a week around the clock to make it successful. And at the time, it seemed like a good sacrifice.
Well, you were young. You were young.
Yeah, I was young. I had no
excited,
obligation,
motivated.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, well, I'll work hard for a couple of years, sell this company for millions of dollars, and then retire to a tropical island and spend my days hot tubbing with supermodels, right? That was my idea. It didn't quite work out that way because I shattered my health. I destroyed my health. And again, we don't need to get into a lot of the details, but I started.
But I think it's interesting when you overdo and then your body tells you, right?
Right.
And so, you don't listen to your body, and then it says, listen to me, Brent, listen to me. No, I'm not going to listen to you. And then you're going to listen to me, right?
Yep. For the first couple of years, when it started complaining, I would just pop some Advil, wash it down with some Diet Coke, and go about my day. Right.
Right.
That didn't work for very long. And so long story short, I had such terrible pain. I actually had to move in with my parents because it was almost like I needed assisted living.
Wow.
My mother had to help me prepare my food. Sometimes some days I needed help getting dressed. So this wasn't just a little tingle in my wrist, that this was really life-shattering pain.
Dark night of the soul, right?
Yeah, well, when I started to have pain, I didn't panic because I figured, well, hey, my best friend's got my back, the doctors will take care of me, and I'll be back to it, right?
Right.
I thought maybe, I have to take a month off and then I'll come back. Well, after 3 years of treatment, the doctors gave up on me. They actually told me, please don't come back. We can't be spending our limited resources on impossible cases.
Wow.
And so after 3 years of treatment, the head doctor at Curlin Job declared me what they call permanent and stationary, which means that no amount of treatment is going to make a difference in my condition.
Wow.
And I was put on lifetime disability when I was 27 years old. That's no joke. I was literally sent home to die.
Yeah.
And when I told my partner about this, I thought he'd be all, hey, Brent, I got your back. We're in this together. We'll figure it out, right? It was just the opposite. He was just like, well, if you can't work, you have no place here. Fired me from the company I had founded,
Mm,
sold it for millions of dollars behind my back, gave me bumpkiss.
mm.
And I found out he had been secretly dating the woman I was crazy in love with.
Oh my goodness. Talk about
Right.
betrayals.
Yeah. So that was really the beginning of the dark night of the soul, at least the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And isn't that how things happen in life that I've noticed in my life and in my clients' lives? Everything's going along and suddenly, like, everything falls
Yep.
apart. It's chaos so that you can create new or
it was just,
give up,
it was
but
surreal. It really was surreal. It didn't feel real when I was going through it
I bet.
because it was so extreme, so horrible, right? Never in a million years could I imagined it would turn out that way.
Right.
But I was depressed, I was drinking, I was using drugs, I was suicidal, which I think is understandable given what
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
through. And I was fortunate I didn't go too deep down the rabbit hole of drinking and drugs because I had a friend of mine get me into alternative medicine and positive thinking.
Mm.
And at first I was excited. I'm like,
What a
hey,
great friend, right?
yeah, the doctors can't help me. Maybe something like acupuncture or herbs or a cleanse would, right? I didn't know. I was desperate.
Right.
So long story short, I spent 5 years living with my parents on disability, running around chasing treatment,
Right.
running up a gigantic credit card bill in the process.
Mm.
And nothing helped me. It was so frustrating. I had hundreds of sessions of acupuncture. I did cleanses. I did all these special diets. I took all these supplements and herbs, and I had magnets and chi machines and vibration machines and lasers and LEDs and electric stims and all this stuff, right? I mean, I could go on for hours and nothing helped. I got worse.
Mm.
And it really bottomed out when I had an experimental surgery that a doctor thought could help me because I had tried everything, right? Now I was trying experimental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, I had the surgery. I woke up and my arm was paralyzed. I'm like, well, then that didn't help, right?
Mm.
I mean, I wasn't so jovial about it when it happened, but
No,
it
no.
was like,
Well,
wow. And so I couldn't move my arm at all for 6 months, which was really a nightmare.
mm,
And then I met this crazy healer lady named Carrie. And my Aunt Lauren convinced me to have a session with her. And honestly, I didn't think she could help me, right? I had been searching for my health for what, 7, 8 years at that point, and no one could make a difference. But Terry talked to me about the power of the subconscious and did this block clearing thing with me, asked me lots of questions about God and what had happened in my childhood and with my best friend and all these things. And then at the end of the session, she said, okay, Brent, we're going to heal your arm now. And I'm like, sure, lady, right? Go crazy. Everyone else has tried. You might as well give it a shot, right?
right.
And she kind of rolled her eyes and went into a trance. And about a minute later, there was this loud pop and I felt a crack in my arm.
Mm.
It was like a little firecracker went off, kaboom. And I was like, whoa, what was that? And Terry opened her eyes and said, okay, dear, let's try your arm now. And I did. And I was like, oh my God, my elbow, which had been paralyzed by the surgery, I could move again. And it was truly a miracle. It was a miracle that gave me my life back. And I couldn't really understand what had happened, but I saw that it was real. And I was like, Terry, I have no idea what you just did, but can you please teach me? And
right.
so here we are 20 years later.
Yeah. Wow. So at that point, this was like just changed the whole trajectory of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. More than I could have imagined. Because I went in just wanting to find something, anything that would help me with my pain. And even better, get me back to work. That's not what happened. Instead, I was given a whole new lifestyle and an entirely new career.
Right. So was she teaching you after that? Was
Yep.
was that how it happened?
She was my first teacher, yes. And what happened was I studied really intensively with her for about 2, 3 years. And then I came to the point where I needed to go out, branch out to get more different teachers and influences. So I started what I thought was a 6-month process of running around to different healers and masters and gurus and shamans and
Mhm,
mystics
mhm,
to
mhm.
reverse engineer the masters. That was my
Right,
plan.
right.
So I spent a lot of time, a lot of money running around working with these really incredible people, trying to figure out what they were doing. I thought it would take 6 months. It ended up taking me more like 5 years.
Yeah.
But eventually I started to piece it together. I started to see some pieces of the puzzle. And that led to creating what today we call the Formula for Miracles and the Awakening Dynamic System. And, that's why I'm here, because this technology has done so much for me. I mean, it literally, it not only gave me my life back, it gave me a better life
Right, right,
than I had had before.
right.
It literally saved my mother's life, saved my son's life. I mean, these are no exaggerations. They would not be on the planet if I didn't know this.
Right, right.
And, so many of my clients and students. And it's difficult for me to see so many people suffering in the world
Hmm.
when there are solutions.
Right.
There are solutions that are there. We just have to find them.
And what a
And
gift. And what a gift that was that you went through that
it
dark
was
night
for
of the
sure.
soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you just, God forbid, committed suicide, like we know people will do when they're in that state, or, they just give up and they don't search, they can't use the gift that they were given. This was, can't see that it's a gift until later.
Yeah.
That what you had to go through what you went through for the compassion, for the understanding to get it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And also the fact that you were kind of like a scientist, you're the
Sure.
engineering type, the software engineering type, which never believes in that junk, right?
Right. The way I was raised, it was just a bunch of hippie nonsense.
Right.
And
right.
it was like, well, that's for people that are too dumb to go to real doctors, right?
Right.
Yeah. And, it's funny that I never thought something like that would happen to me. But you're right. What I went through was so transformative in terms of compassion and empathy.
Right. You
That I
wouldn't
used
have
to
seen
think,
that. You wouldn't have
that's
known
right.
that. Yeah.
Never.
I mean,
What I
if
learned.
someone fixed your arm, that would have been it. And you would have
Right.
gone back after that goal. Yeah.
That's right. I would have just gone right back and done the same thing over and over,
Right.
which
So
really wouldn't help
what did
anything.
that original lady that you went to, what did she call what she did?
She called it healing with the theta brainwave,
Oh, okay.
which it's kind of a generic term, right? And
Yeah.
but that's what she called it. And that was actually one of the things, that was the first big major discovery for me, was understanding the importance of the theta wave. Because I know that most people see energy healing, law of attraction as kind of this woo-woo, touchy-feely kind of thing. What I want to here to tell you is it's really not. That's the way we've used it, right? But energy healing, prayer, law of attraction, mind power, these are built on laws of the universe.
Right.
In the same way that an airplane is built on the laws of aerodynamics, right? The laws of aerodynamics, they're not just a good idea, it's the way things work, right?
Right.
As
right.
we used to joke around at MIT, we used to go, gravity, it's not just a good idea, it's the law.
Right. Right.
Right. So there are laws, there are physical laws that we know about, right? The law of electromagnetism, the law of gravity. There are also metaphysical laws, such as the law of attraction, the law of exchange. And through the physical and metaphysical laws, we can actually understand the science of miracles and create technology to facilitate them.
Right.
Which is pretty amazing. The same way that if you understand electromagnetism, you can build a radio, or you can build a TV, or you can build a phone, right?
Right.
All these things require understanding those laws. It wasn't until the mid-19th century that we kind of figured it out.
Right.
That's exactly why electrical technology showed up within a few decades. And that's what I'm here to do, to make a fundamental shift in how we live, on the order of what happened when we developed electricity. Because Totally
Yeah, and I
changed my
think
life.
that's the beauty of it is spirituality is the new science, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
And I think for me, I know, I teach like emotional intelligence to a lot of people who are techie people and engineers.
Mhm.
And to even get them to listen to me, I have to talk about what's happening with the organs in your brain and the chemicals that are created when you're angry, so that they see that there is actual science to what
Yes.
happens when they're angry. And so as I was reading your book and understanding that this is so beautiful coming from a person who is a science oriented person, to show how the science and the spirituality meet at a point.
They
So
do.
speak to that a little bit more, because I think the people who listen to my show, a lot of the people who listen to my show also are, maybe skeptical about all this.
Yeah, and I think they should be skeptical.
Yeah,
That's a good thing. Why?
because
There's a
they
lot of con
question.
art. They're right.
Yeah,
In the self-improvement world, people doing life coaching, energy healing, law of attraction. Yes, there are a lot of con artists, and yes, there's a lot of incompetent people that just don't know what they're doing.
right.
And that's true of a lot of things, right? One might say that's also true of modern medicine and doctors, right?
Exactly.
Sure. So
Or
it's really,
lawyers like me. You
right,
got good
exactly.
lawyers and bad.
Yeah, people are people, right?
Right.
And so the technology, I think, is an important parallel, because I think electricity is a great metaphor we can all understand. That if you took your cell phone back in time 500 years, it would be considered a miracle, wouldn't it?
Sure.
Right. They think it was from the devil or aliens or God
It's
or anything.
magic,
Right.
right?
It's magic. Exactly. It can record your image. It can record your voice. It can do math. I mean, oh my gosh, it would be a miracle. They'd either make you king or burn you at the stake. One of the two, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a miracle. It's just technology.
Right.
But people 500 years ago did not understand electromagnetism. They didn't have Newton's laws, right? They didn't know
Mhm.
Faraday's equations. They didn't know any of these things. So, but people in the past, they weren't stupid. They saw thunderstorms and lightning, right? They felt the shock of static electricity on a dry winter day. So they weren't dumb. They just didn't understand what they were experiencing.
Right.
And
Right.
right now, the state of the art with healing and law of attraction, intuition is kind of like electricity 500 years ago. We recognize it, but we don't really understand it.
Yes.
There's no widespread adoption. It was only a small number of exceptional people that had a great talent or ability that could do it, right? But my goal is to try to break down, these are the laws, these are the physical laws, these are the metaphysical laws. There is a step-by-step process we can learn for clearing the subconscious, for healing the body, for attracting more money. And it's all grounded in laws of the universe. But until we figured it out, a lot of people won't believe it. Just like people 500 years ago, if you went back to the court of Henry VIII, they wouldn't believe your cell phone, would they?
No, no,
Of course
of course
not.
not.
Of course not. They're not stupid. It's just they don't have the understanding of the technology.
Right.
And I think in the future, one thing Tara used to say is she sees within the next 2 to 3 generations, we're going to start to teach this to children in grammar school.
Mhm.
Why? This is something we all need to know.
Right. I mean, now we're starting to see they're teaching mindfulness, and meditation. And, I learned transcendental meditation when I was 19 years old. I won't tell you how long ago that was, but I've been in
10
meditation
years.
for many, for many, many, many years. And, I remember when I spent my $25 on that, my parents thought I was nuts,
Yeah.
and I use it to this day, and it's been a really long time. But I think we are starting to understand different things. I know, like Charlottesville, Virginia, in the University of Virginia, I was watching this whole thing on YouTube of all these professors talking about past lives and near death experiences where people thought it was crazy. I remember when I read, Dr. Raymond Moody, who did research on that. And now people are saying, yeah, well, they're doing all this research to show that that's real.
That's right.
But let's get back to this healing because about 15 years ago, my husband and I both took Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, which is an energy healing as well. And, I found that to be amazing. And I was able to literally use Reiki to cure my dog of lymphosarcoma.
Wow.
And another dog that had hemangiosarcoma, which they only usually live about 3 months. He lived 3 years. And my dog oncologist asked me, what's your protocol? And, obviously I was feeding him healthy food, but I was doing Reiki on him 3 times a day. So let's talk about the theta and talk about your step-by-step process, because I think people would be fascinated on that. So that's more important.
Yeah. And so what I want people to know is there is a technology to this. This is something you can learn step by step. The trouble is you're not going to find that very many places. Because when I went on my journey, when I went to go find all the masters, this is what I encountered. There really are some amazing people out there that can do some truly mind-blowing things. I mean, there are just some incredibly talented people out there, right? But for the vast majority of them, it's just something they were born with. It's just a gift they have. Mm-hmm. They don't really understand what they're doing or how it works. And that was a problem, right?
That's why you wanted to reverse engineer it.
Right, I wanted to reverse engineer it.
How is it that they're doing this?
Right?
Yeah.
So we can synthesize it and create something even for people that have no talent.
Right.
Because when I first learned healing, I was terrible. I had zero natural ability. But I want to emphasize this is all learnable. Every single person can learn this. Everybody can be a great healer. Everybody can learn to harness the power of their mind. The biggest challenge we have is really all these things we think we know. We think we know everything, right? That
you mean science, like doctors and everything.
That's right.
Is that what you're talking about? Not you and I, but yeah.
To pick on doctors a little bit. What I learned is this: when a doctor tells you that's impossible, what that means, what it means translated into English is I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And that's what I want to call out for everybody. That's your biggest obstacle. You think that because you don't know how to do something or because you haven't seen it done, it must be impossible.
Well, but that's what they're taught in medical school. They're not taught holistic medicine. And I broke my metatarsal bone in my foot about 2 years ago. And I went and the doctor took an x-ray and he could see the metatarsal was actually broken like this. He goes, you're going to need surgery. I said, give me about 3 weeks, will you? And I'll come back. Let me wear a boot. So what I did was meditate on that, getting back together, that the bones, because I saw it and I saw how to do it. And I just kept visualizing that. And I came back in 3 weeks and he said, what's your protocol? I said, this is what I did.
Yeah, visualization. And what you're saying, that's exactly the point that I want every person listening to hear. You can do this. Everyone can do this.
Everyone.
Some people have it as a natural talent. That's great. You may have that natural talent. But if you don't worry. This is learnable.
Yes.
This is a skill you can learn.
Yeah, I don't think it was natural. I think it was just a mixture of all of the different things that I searched like you. And, blending the meditation, blending the Reiki, blending, visualization, blending science and mind, all of that, and then doing what worked for me. But let's talk about the theta waves, because I think most people don't really understand what's going on in the brain.
Sure. So there's a lot of pieces you have to get right for spiritual technology to work. That's no different than any technology. If you want to build an airplane, there's a lot of things you have to get right. The shape of the wings, the propellers, the engine, the gas tank, the wheels, right? There's a lot of pieces. So healing the body, manifesting with the law of attraction is no different. Now, I do live webinars called Healathon, where I'm going to go over all 7 of what we call the sacred tools of higher dimensional living. But I'm going to give one piece right now that everyone can learn and start applying, which is the paranormal phenomena we're interested in, such as instant healing, mind power, remote viewing, talking to the dead, etc. All these things are strongly correlated to a theta brainwave. And the theta brainwave is the brainwave we go into when we're asleep at night and dreaming. So one of the tricks is you have to learn to get your brain into the same state it's in when it's asleep and dreaming, but when you're awake and conscious.
Right.
And that was the great magic trick I learned from my first teacher, Terry, is how to do that.
Yeah.
But just I want everyone to hear there's more to it than just a theta state.
Right.
Just like there's more to building a car than just a steering wheel or a transmission, right?
So that's the first step for you.
Right. Yes.
Is getting into that theta. And so are you talking about getting into some kind of a mindfulness or,
Not
some
really.
kind of a meditation, or what is it for you?
The old-fashioned way of getting to theta was to meditate for 30 or 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a long time, like literally 30 to 40 years is what it takes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are shortcuts I've developed with my teachers that allow me to show you how to do it in about 2 seconds. And that's why I'd love to have people come to one of my live webinars, because I want you to experience this for yourself.
Can you show just that? And I've been a meditator for a long time, so I might be either a good subject or a terrible one.
Well, the trouble is to do a demonstration takes about 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Which, to explain what I'm doing in
Yeah.
a way that would be meaningful, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I could just do a bunch of stuff really fast, but no one would appreciate that, right?
Okay. Okay.
But what we can do is show you how to communicate with your subconscious and get into a theta state. But again, it takes 20 to 30 minutes. What I want everyone to know right now is you can start training right away on how to do this. You can start meditating. You can use binaural beat encoded audios. There are different light and sound machines. So anything that helps you to develop that ability to hold a theta state is going to be a huge asset.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like if you're going to join the Marines, you might want to get into shape and start running. Why is that?
So what's happening in our brain? Help my audience understand what's happening in their brain when they're in the theta state. You talked about sleep, but we have various stages of sleep. So
well, it's simple. When you're in the theta state, the subconscious opens.
Okay.
The subconscious mind, the body kind of keeps it in a bank vault most of the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right? You go to a bank, they keep the money and the gold in a vault, right? That way, no one can just steal it. So if you're going to open the vault, it's a whole procedure you have to go through. And that's important because you want to protect what's in there. So our bodies carefully protect our subconscious mind. They don't want anything just going in there and mucking around, right?
Right.
So the only way you can get into the subconscious mind is through the theta state. This theta state is like unlocking the bank vault inside your head.
Right.
Then that opens us up to the point where we can clear subconscious blocks. We can perform instant healings. We can attract things with the power of the mind. All that cool stuff.
Right. Right.
And this is a technology. And I want everyone listening to know, don't believe anything I'm saying just because I say it. I want you to go have your own experience. I want you to give it a shot. Be willing to set aside what you think you know, maybe for an hour, and let's see what happens. Because when you see for yourself how powerful and amazing this is, you're going to go, wow, why isn't everyone doing this?
Right.
I can't answer that. I don't know. I think they should. I think their lives would be way better.
That's what you want to happen, is for more people to do this.
Right. Be like they had a dumpster downtown full of money and you could just take it.
Yeah.
It's like, why not just go and take a bunch of money? It's right there, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. There's so much value awaiting for us. But we live and die thinking we're so small and so limited, right? And it's awful because we can do so much more. We just need someone to show us the way.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of, I think people are, trying to use whatever all their hard-earned hours and blood, sweat, and tears for money, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the hardest thing for people is when they end up with cancer, renal disease, excuse me. That is the hardest because, they're going to work hard like you did when you were young. They're going to not pay attention to their body. And I think for healing, when they heal their body, then they're going to see how they can heal other things in their life as well, relationships, finances. But I think the biggest thing is they're not going to really think about it until they have a situation like you had, some terrible healing. So what have you seen with the people that you've worked with? What kinds of healings have you seen?
I've seen, I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, and I've seen almost anything you can imagine. I mean, some of the highlights, I've seen broken bones heal overnight. I've had people completely recover from HIV, lots of cancer, I mean, dozens and dozens. Cancer is usually one of the easier ones for energy healing. Hundreds of allergies, life transformations, people discovering their passion, making money, overcoming depression, finding love. I mean, we could just go on and on.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that people have you call this awakening a dynamic system,
Yes,
right?
correct.
That's what you call it. So it sounds a little scientific as well, right? So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so your website is awakeningdynamics.com. What will we find there?
Well, what I'd encourage everyone to do, if you want to learn more, if you don't want to miss out, just hop over to my website at awakeningdynamics.com. First thing you'll see is a big button that says Save My Seat. Click that, you will save your seat for the next upcoming live Healathon webinar, which as we're first putting this out there, is just a few days away. So don't wait. And on the Healathon, I will walk you through all 7 of the sacred tools of higher dimensional living, as well as some interactive processes. I'll teach you how to check yourself for subconscious blocks. I will do some clearings on the call so you can clear some blocks. I will then train everybody into the quantum field, which is a wild experience. And I'll also be giving out free healings at the end. So that's a great way to get started. So head over to awakeningdynamics.com, click the button, and I will see you very soon for the live Healathon webinar. That'd be amazing.
Right. And what do you want people to know? What do you want to leave us with? Because I think we're
just know that consciousness is a technology. And it is potentially the most transformative technology in human history. So if you really want, if you want to make more money, if you want to have a better life, be happier, there's really no better way than improving your consciousness. And it's something that we can all do. We're all master healers on the inside. We're all master manifestors. Again, we just need someone to show us how it's done.
Yeah.
I never could have figured this out on my own, but I had some amazing teachers that showed me, and I want to return that favor. I want to show everyone how to do this. I want to show everyone how to heal themselves, their families, to align their subconscious and create a more amazing life. It's really that simple.
Oh, that's wonderful. And thank you for doing that. Believe me, and I'm sure you feel the same, this world needs some healing, some healing of consciousness for sure. And maybe that will bring us some world peace and some good things between people and good connections and happier relationships as well. So give your website once again, and then it's time to go.
It is awakeningdynamics.com.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to mention your book again, too. The Experience, Part 2, The Formula for Miracles. And we've been speaking with Brent Michael Phillips, and it is Where Science Reveals the Secret of Spirit. So stay in touch, Brent, and thank you so much for joining us, and keep up the wonderful work that you're doing in healing. Thank you. We'll see you again soon. Bye.